Hi, today I want to show you how to build fully reactive components and reusable components in your Webflow project that will be able to work 100% dynamically and fully reactive with Wized or any other framework that you're going to use to turn your Webflow application into a web app or a mobile app. And the cool thing about this principle is we're actually going to use a similar principle to building something in React without having to use React and still staying within the Webflow ecosystem that gives us this full design freedom and design control. Now, the way we're going to think about those things is we're going to create components in Webflow. This will allow us to make those things reusable. Now, I don't want to bore you by me spending an hour to design this component. So I just create a simple widget that is a div block that will have nested in it a progress bar wrapper for the progress bar that will have the bar, like just starting at like 25% to just show that there is something. And then we're just going to have this text block, which we may want to count or may want to call percentage count, and then we just have like this div block that will hold it. Let's call that count holder. So this is the whole setup, and we just never want to touch this again. We want to create a component that can be reused in a dynamic manner throughout multiple projects and multiple pages, so we don't have to rebuild it all the time, and it's just already set to be connected to different data sources using Wized. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use custom code, but we have ChatGPT to help us with that. So the first step will be adding a custom HTML element in here, and I missed adding that in here. By the way, in case you haven't noticed already, this is a live build, so we may go through some trial and error. But the idea here is we have this progress bar wrapper, which I want to add on this wrapper an attribute of progress bar, and I want to do 50. This 50 will stand for 50%, so the idea is that this 50 will adjust this to 50%, right? And then I need to add a progress bar attribute of bar width, for example, and I want to use custom jQuery code to then, if this is 50, I want to adjust the progress bar attribute with the bar width of 50%. And when I change this, for example, to 75, I want to target this item. We use this attribute only for identification to then update this to 75. Now, as you can see, it's not really that nice of an animation. So I want to add a transition of all properties of, let's do 700 milliseconds. And now let's try updating that bar. That should be a bit smoother. If I'm going to do, look at that. I'm going to do 25%, and then I'm going to do 100%. I'm going to do 45%. I think that looks nice. Perfect. So let's revert that back to 25. And let's go back to 25 here. So we're going to use attributes to identify those elements in Webflow, and then we're going to use later on like the custom properties to make even that dynamic. And then we want to update this number here, which, let me change that to progress bar, and we call that progress value, right? So I have progress bar, progress value. And now we need to write some jQuery to make that whole thing work, right? Because right now it's just static. So a good first step is start with that idea visually, right? We have that bar, we have progress bar 25, and we have progress bar, bar width, that will represent the bar width, And then we have the progress bar progress value that we want to update this percentage with the value. So let's publish this to get the HTML. So as you can see, we have that bar right in here. So now I want to inspect this element, and I want to go in here, take this widget, and I want to copy this element. Now this gives me the HTML. The cool thing about that is I can now paste this in ChatGPT and say, I have this component in Webflow, and it's supposed to be a dynamic progress bar adjusting the percentage of the bar based on the, how do we call that in here again? Based on the progress bar value. Based on the progress bar value, and also dynamically adjusting the progress bar progress value, the progress bar progress value based on the value of the initial progress bar in my of the initial progress bar in my example 25 standing for 25%. I think we did 25, yes. So let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. It's going to give us 2 responses. That's cool. It's going to give us very big generic stuff here. But let's make sure to say, I want my HTML to stay as it is, if functionally possible, and I want to, how are we going to put that? And I want to only use the attributes of progress bar. That was the attribute we used, right? Progress bar, yes. To dynamically modify the DOM. DOM means HTML structure that Webflow provides us that will be modified in a dynamic manner. First, ensure your HTML looks something like this. If you want to maintain your HTML structure and use attributes to control the dynamic behavior of your progress bar, you can still achieve this with JavaScript while leveraging custom data attributes for a more semantic and cleaner approach. So we're going to get this one here. So we're going to do progress bar equals bar. Let's make sure that ChatGPT didn't get too creative here, because we have progress bar, bar width. So let's make sure to tell ChatGPT more precisely what we're trying to do here, because this doesn't exist. Just to double check, I want the, let's double check. I have the attribute of progress bar equal 25, meaning I now want to adjust its child. We have the child in here. That's the progress bar width. Its child progress bar equals equals bar width, and I should put that in quotes too, 25% in width, dynamically, and fully reactive. And also, I want to take the progress bar 25 and set this 25 as 25% set text on the text block with the attribute of progress bar equals, and let's get to our progress bar that's called progress value. So let's go back here and let's do progress value, just like that. And now we lean back and we let the robots work for us. Oh, robot is almost done. Oh no, robot has an error. Okay. To dynamically adjust the width of the content bar and update the displayed percentage based on an attribute in your parent container, progress bar 25, you can modify the JavaScript function to read this value and apply it to both the width and the progress bar and the text content of the percentage display. That is amazing. Ensure your HTML is structured so that the progress bar attribute and the parent container holds the percentage value. Let's double check. So we have the widget, the bar wrapper, progress bar 25. We go in here and we see progress bar 25. Now let's go in here, class bar has progress bar, and let's see, in here we have progress bar width. Okay, so it did a mistake here. Progress bar is not progress bar. Let's say it's not progress bar, it's progress bar. Let's update this. It's bar width. So let's say it's bar width. Okay, got it. Let's continue double checking. And then we have class count holder, right? We don't touch that. But then we have progress bar, progress value in here, right? Let's go back to Webflow. We have progress bar, progress value. That works. And then it targets the progress bar, and it takes the progress bar, right? It parses in. Then it takes the progress bar. We need to check. I will double check that, and then progress bar, progress value. That looks good so far. So let's see. We have bar width. Let's copy this code, and let's say, is this fully reactive based on the progress bar equals value, progress bar. Let's see. The JavaScript, as you set it up, will correctly update the progress bar and the text on the value. However, this function isn't fully reactive. So that doesn't matter too badly right now, because we just want, and this is the approach we should be aiming for, we want to just get something working on a static example, right? And then we can always make sure to make it even more dynamic and beautiful. But let's just get the basics going. And let's see if this will get the basics going for us. It should be. And it's exciting what we're doing here. So we see we have 25%. Now I have a bad example here because this is set to 25% initially. So let's set this to 5% initially. And actually, we need to set it to 0 when we fully publish that, or need to do with some CSS magic to get that working. But as you can see, yes, it's working. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. We built our first fully reactive, not reactive yet, but it will be reactive. This is the first step. So I want to have to stay at 25% because it really looks nice, right? Because I can style that and still see that. So one thing I want to do in my CSS is I want to target that, but I'm going to show you how to later start that. Because when we have something that's 5, it would move from 25 to 5, but we want to start at 0. But we don't want to move this to 0 in the editor because then we don't see this element anymore. And hidden elements are quite something in web applications, so we're going to add some CSS here. But I'm going to show you that later on. So yeah, let's just get that working right now. And let's look at that. So we have a mutation observer. Here you go. We have that, progress bar. That looks good. And let's say, please give me the full JS code and consider all the attributes from here. And let's reference our original code. Wonderful, because that seemed to work great. If ChatGPT gives you mutation observer, you know that you're going to go into the right direction because the mutation observer is looking on dynamic data changes. And once dynamic data changes are made inside of the HTML, it will adjust that. So when you update the HTML attribute dynamically, it will also reset that dynamic percentage based on any changes made. So this is a good thing. And basically, we're creating our little data store here, like a variable of config. And it's very interesting the way this will work in JavaScript. So we're going to get that. We have like a little framework just for this component, which is pretty neat. Let's paste this in here. And as you can see, first of all, let's see if it still works. And then second of all, let's connect that with Wized. It still works. Wonderful. So now let's go to inspect elements and see if we are ready for the show. So now I have this bar of 25. Now Wized would go in here and change this to 30. And as you can see, if I change this to 30, it's updating it. If I change this to 75, it's updating it to 75, and we have that wonderful animation. So we created our first Webflow, fully dynamic, smooth, and magnificently looking component. And the wonderful thing about that is we're not using any React, no SDK. We built this fully in Webflow. So now one little thing, I want to take this progress bar width, and I want to start it initially as 1% width. So let's say, can you write CSS to set equals question mark, no, quotation mark, not question mark, and not bar width, that's a different one. Oh no, actually that's bar width, sorry. We need to take bar width, and I want to start that at 0%. So can you write to set progress bar width to 0% width initially? Okay. And we need to add this in the header. Now, this is a bit like Wized cloak here. You need to add this separately from the element you're trying to add here, right? And we don't need the transition because we already have that applied. But the idea is when I use this in here, I will be applying that. But let's see. How can I, and this is an experiment, I don't know if this works, how can I add this in an HTML embed, but only have this work on the published site and not the Webflow editor without JS? Let's see, is that possible? I don't know. ChatGPT probably can help us. Okay, there is no bulletproof way of doing that. So I assume if we use JavaScript, we may get some timing issues, so I will not be using this approach here. But actually, maybe let's try. You know, if we don't try, we never know. Maybe we don't have timing issues. Maybe we do. Let's see. Let's do this extreme experiment. Set this to 5%, and let's see how this is behaving, right? Is it going from 25 to 5, or is it going from 0 to 5? Okay, it's not looking bad. It's starting at 5. Perfect. So that doesn't seem to be a big of a deal here. So let's take this code and let's probably specify this. Because I want the animation to go from 0 to 5, right? So, okay, perfect. So this works great. But one small favor. I want when the page loads to move from 0 width to 5%, or whatever the dynamic value is. The dynamic part should stay as it is, but I want to move from 0 to dynamic width to show a nice animation. Is that possible? Here is the code I have so far. And let's see if that works. It should be. Okay, that looks great. Okay, here we go. And again, this is really exciting stuff because this will make the work that we need to do in Wized for this element super simple, and it will allow us to reuse this component throughout multiple projects without having to update much in Wized. We basically don't need to update anything in Wized for that, and we maintain a full dynamic experience here. So that did not work great. Now it's broken. So let's revert back to the part that worked, right? And this worked. And we say, okay, that's not working. Now this part is broken, right? Okay, let's see if that works. If not, we're just going to go back to our original version of that, right? But, you know, we always want to stretch the boundaries of LowCode or NoCode. It's not really NoCode, but we want to stretch the boundaries here of what we can do in Webflow. So let's continue doing those things. And this is a great React alternative. You have reusable components. You have full design freedom. You can do amazing animations. Nah, that's not working. So let's do a different approach here, right? Because since we're doing a component anyway, my concern was that we may not see this bar moving, right? But my idea is we use a component anyway, so we don't need to see this bar precisely. So I can do it like this, and then we should get that animation. So let's look into that. It's not working now, so what did I do wrong? Let's look into this again. Oh, I took the wrong thing probably. Let's make sure we take the right thing. We want to take this one. This one was the one working. Let's double check on the code again. Yeah, we have that Webflow thing. That was the one that was not working. So let's take this one. That seems to be great. And we should have now a smooth percentage component. And here we go. We have that. Okay, it starts at 5. I still wanted to start at 0. So let's see how we can achieve this. So let's say this code works great. Let's just have ChatGPT know this code works great. I like that. Okay, perfect. Can we on page load, when the percentage gets set the first time, move the bar width from 0 to the dynamic value to show a nice starting animation, but keep all the other behavior as it is, please. Thanks. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is the way this is going to do that. It's going to give us the style in here. Let's update that. Here we go. We don't need to add the transition. We already have that added in Webflow. Here we go. And let's see how great that is working. Let's see. Okay. Maybe it's my funky window in here that is doing this. Let's see. Okay. It's immediately starting at the dynamic set percentage. Actually, I'm wrong, because we're going to update that number dynamically in Wized. Maybe having those changes applied instantly is a good thing. And it certainly probably is, because Wized takes some time to load that data. So what we're trying to do, actually, we're trying to solve the wrong challenge here, right? We're solving the wrong problem, right? Because, plot twist, Wized takes time to load that data, because that data will come dynamically, right? So we want changes to apply instantly, right? So we may want that bar to fade in, though, but we want changes to apply dynamically, because this data bar attribute will start with an empty value. And then we want to adjust that value once we got that data coming from our dynamic instance. So we are actually moving into the right direction. Now, we want to also target this with a Wized attribute, but let's first exit this. Our component is ready. As you can see, it is reusable, right? We can use this component multiple times. And also, one thing I want to check before we move on is I want to check if we have any interference in using multiple ones. So let's do one at 55, and let's do one at 25, right? And, oh, as you can see, since we're using the component here, we are adjusting those values. So create and connect new property, probably. Let's call this percentage. Here you go. So we have that, the percentage property. So if I'm now going to go in here to my props, we will see that we have the percentage. Now I should be able to change it to 35 here to have 35%, and then go to this property here and to have that as a different one. So that is not helping us because I have DevLink. Why did I sign up for the beta? So we need to refine this a little bit. We want this attribute basically to be free and not linked to another value. So that is a good question. I'm not a Webflow expert. Let's see how we're going to do that. If I'm going to go in here, let's see. I know there are ways to create reusable components. That may be something I want to look into quickly. Create reusable components. Open the component panel, rename a component, double click on the instance. Okay, we got it working. Now, the issue is it's tied to each other since we're going to use it as a component. So how did I solve that last time? We probably need to set properties in here. So we want to set property of, and I'm afraid this is only available in DevLink, so excuse me if I'm doing things that are only for DevLink. But what I want to do is I want to probably set this attribute in a dynamic manner. So I'm thinking of maybe I can even set this whole thing just in Wized. Maybe I'm adding Wized, and then I do count. Let's do percentage count 1. And now I want the other one to be percentage count 2. So I have to unlink those. Now, no idea how to do that. So let's Google. How, or let's ChatGPT. How to have different data in Webflow components and untie them for certain parts. Let's see. To have different data binding, Webflow allows you to bind data to elements, for instance, if you're using CMS. Okay. I mean, I have one component and I want different headings for the same component. Now, I like to ask with generic stuff to get an understanding, because most of the times there's not as much documentation for more complex stuff if it comes to Webflow. So, conditional visibility, that's not a good solution. So, now here we are figuring things out in Webflow. So, let's look into what they can offer us here. So, progress bar wrapper value. No, I don't want to create another component. Maybe let's go to the components. And let's go to edit. Oh no, that doesn't help us. Let's see. Now this is really a live video because I have no idea how to do this. So we have percentage count, right? And my idea for this is to get this value, this property set dynamically. So let's see. Let's call this Wized attribute. Oh, that default text is just empty. And let's call this dynamic Wized attribute, I think. And actually, let's do this empty. And let's call this dynamic Wized attribute. Default text is empty. Let's create that. So I have my dynamic Wized attribute in here. So now if I go to this element, I can set my attribute of hey, right? And I can go to this element, I can set that to hey 2. And now you will see I have hey and hey 2. That is amazing. So I can set my dynamic Wized attribute. Let's call this component 1, or let's do counter 1. Or, yeah, let's do counter 1. Let's do counter 2. So we have our dynamic Wized attribute in here. And then using this Wized attribute on top of here, I can add the progress bar attribute in Wized with a percentage to dynamically adjust that. So we're using DevLink and Wized, and this is like a whole React project now. But you know, this is the thing that makes fun. You know, this is the exciting part. Okay, we didn't broke anything. At least I can't see anything that broke. Let's make sure to change that structure. Add 1 rem spacing so they can breathe. And now let's go to the exciting part. Now this is really like this video is really my taste. This is exciting. We're going to do things I have no idea how to do them. We're going to experiment. We're going to get our hands dirty with some custom code where I don't know how to do that at all. And this is great. We're learning so much exciting stuff today. Today is my day. So let's go to Wiis. Let's put the domain in here. Like, Wiis is super exciting. Like, you always discover new things, and then you can try messing around with DevLink, and this is great. Like, this is my taste right here. So we have Wiis components. Let's create this project, and let's see if our dynamic Wized attributes for reusable components are working. Let's go on X-ray mode in 1, 2, 3. It's working. That's amazing. So we have our dynamic attribute set using the custom components I have accessible. I think it's a DevLink thing. I'm not sure because I signed up for DevLink, and that's a great thing to work with to set those things dynamically. But I have my dynamic Wized attribute here. So I can clone this component throughout multiple workspaces. The only thing I need to do is dynamically update the Wized attribute to link that to a different data property. And it's already pre-built. It's like a mini SDK built for Wized inside of Webflow. And let's see if it works. If I go to set HTML attribute, I go to progress bar, and I'm going to return 45. Maybe I need to tune it as a string. Let's see. Let's reload. Okay, it's not working. Now, we're going to figure out why it's not working. So, in order to do that, let's try to reverse engineer what we're doing here. Let's go back to this one, and what we did with Wized, let's do the same with, I think it was progress bar. Yes, let's go to progress bar in here, right? And let's, we don't want to attribute on here. Okay, let's go to this one. Let's add progress bar, and let's just hard code that in of 45% and see if that still works, right? Now, this is even getting better. Now we have a curveball on here. Now we have to, okay, we got that working. So what happens if I now update the attribute to 4? That is working. So, and if I update that to 90, this is working too. So the thing is, the issue seems to be not getting that initialized with any value. So the simple solution here is starting this progress bar with 0. This is also how we're going to get our initial 0. Isn't that great? So now I have 90 set in Wized, and on load, as you can see, we start at 0, and we're going to upgrade or load this to to that. Or maybe, let's see. Oh, this is what's going wrong here. We don't even need to set it to 0, I think. We could just set it to nothing. We may get an NA. Let's see. No, it works. That works. So the issue we're having here is a timing issue, right? Because there was no attribute applied to it when this code in here got initialized. So it didn't know that this element existed, and that is this that this is the element it's looking for. So we're just adding an empty attribute. Everything stays as it is. We call this counter1. We can set those dynamically, and then we can dynamically set these things in Wized using the set HTML. This is how we're going to interact with our DevLink element here. So DevLink is not just anymore a dream, it is reality thanks to the exciting people helping us build exciting web applications in Wized. So let's do counter 2. They should not interfere with each other. Counter 1 should stay at 90. Counter 2 should stay at 0. Perfect. I have 2 dynamically applied, different from each other, Wized attributes. I can now go to set HTML attribute. I'm going to go to progress bar, the one that we now start initially at 0. I'm going to return, I think we have to do it like this, with 50, and we should have, or how did we do it here? We did 90 in quotes. We did set progress bar. Let's reload the page. Okay, let's look into that later on. So we have 90. We have progress bar. Okay, let's see how we're going to reverse engineer this again. Let's reload this. And let's go to this. Very easy. Let's copy this. And let's apply this to count 2. And let's see if we can get that working. Now, interesting is I want to inspect this. And I want to now figure out if an dynamic attribute is applied to here. If it is, yes. So this one has progress bar 90 applied to it. Counter 2. So my question is now, let's trace this back. Let's remove the second one and let's try again, because we always want to see, does it work with a static example? If it does not work dynamically, let's see if it works static. If it works static, then we have an issue with the way we interact with it dynamically. If it doesn't work static as well, then we have an issue in general. So yeah, we are not setting that. So if I go to inspect elements again, we see I have 25. Our issue here is having multiple ones on the same page. So now we want to fix that. So we don't have a dynamic issue. Wized is not our issue here. Our issue is interacting with those simultaneously. So one thing I want to try is let's remove the code outside of the component and add it under the component, because maybe the issue is that the code is interfering with each other. And then let's revert our static example and let's just add 25% in here and see if that works. If it doesn't, then we know where the issue is. Yeah, it still doesn't work, so the double code in here is not the issue. The code itself is the issue, right? So let's make sure, okay, progress bar is empty. In here, progress bar is empty too. Wonderful. So we need to update the code. So let's copy this code and let's go back to ChatGPT and say, this code is amazing. This is working as I imagined it. Let's just give it good job. And here you go, we have that. But I have the issue that it's not working with multiple instances of those bars that I have on one page with multiple dynamic values. Let's just add the reference code again, so we're not going to have something completely of the opposite here. And, this is exciting. This is like my thing right here. And let's see. So what it say? It seems like the issue you're encountering is related to handling multiple instances of progress bars at the same time. So we do query selector progress bar. Perfect. Let's copy that. Let's update this code. Perfect. So we're updating that in the instance. That should solve it for another one. Let's go to both here. Let's add, again, a dynamic value, a static value, because before we do anything dynamic, we want to get the static version working first, and then we can move one step further. Because a lot of people try to get a dynamic working from the beginning, which, if it doesn't work static, you're just wasting your time. So it's not working. So let's say I have 2 progress bar instances on the page now, and there may be more in the future, but it's only working on the first one. And let's see how we're going to solve this with the help of ChatGPT. Let's double check. Progress bar, that looks good. I don't want this. Let's say, here you go. I don't want to use classes for anything. I only want to use attributes. Don't do this. Keep it from the data targeting like the original, which, let's go to our original version. That seemed to be the original. Let's see. It was the one I sent to it. I have 2 instances, but it's not working on the first open. Let's see. This code is amazing. Let's take this one. That was the amazing code. Here you go. To the original. Let's add the reference in here so ChatGPT can help us as precisely as possible. We have query selector. We do bar width and progress value. Those are the proper attributes. We have progress bar. We have our mutation observer. That's great. Perfect. So let's go back to Webflow. Let's update the code. Here you go. Just for testing purposes, because I don't want anything to interfere, let's for now add the code outside of the component. Now, at some point, we want the code to work also inside of the component, so we have a more modular and worry-free way of working with it. There is still only one bar working. So now, let's go to our whole body, basically, of the page, right, and copy everything. So, let's say, actually, is this one set dynamically? Otherwise, that may be the issue. Oh, let's see if this works now, because it would help if we have a value set to it, because otherwise nothing equals null. Or not null equals 0, but it's not working. So this may visualize it better for ChatGPT. Let's copy this. Copy element. Let's actually copy the whole body. Only the first one is working. It's not working with multiple ones. I want to keep the HTML as is, and the code is working fine, but just only for the first one. Please help. Let's see. It's the whole code, and it will. To ensure the script works for multiple progress bars on the page, we need to make sure it correctly targets each progress bar container individually. Let's modify the script to handle multiple instances. Let's make sure progress bar, query selector, we do the attribute. That's great. And progress bar, that is great. I have a good feeling about this one. Let's see. Okay, let's go to our code. Let's paste this in here. Let's save. Here we go. But this is exciting. This is like, and look how smooth this whole animation is going. Still only working for one. Let's see. And it's a little bit more glitchy. Okay, let's see. The code feels more glitchy, but it's still only working for the first one. What's going on? Let's see. The issue might arise from the way we're selecting progress bars. Query selector all returns a node list, so it should theoretically work for the progress bar. Observation, another possibility is the mutation observer is not being set up correctly for each progress bar container. That may be. Let's see. We're just going to try this as long as we're going to get a usable result out of that. But here you go. This is where development is all about. It is taking multiple things that are not that correct and trying and retrying and reverse engineering until we get something working. And then also double checking if those things are set dynamically, which they are. So I want to do one last thing to try. Let's go to this instance and let's give it the same Wized attribute. How is this behaving if Wized is setting both to 90%? Let's see. it's still not working. But if I go to the inspect in here, we see that if I go to inspect this one specifically, I have 90. So let's try again. So I have both set to progress bar equals 90, but only the first one is showing this visually. The second one is still at 0, which it should not be. Let's see. If both progress bars have the progress bar 90, they should be initialized with a progress value of 90. Let's ensure that the script is correctly updating both progress bars. Let's see. Okay, we got more script. This makes me confident. At least a little bit more. So let's try this again. And let's see how we're going to get this going. Let's get the party started, ChatGPT. Whew. It's still not working. Still not working. Okay, that's a good idea. Let's try this with an HTML structure, because maybe it's the way we use the components in here. You know, let's try that. See, we got 2 of those bars. Let's see. What's going on here? Okay, I can live with that. Let's see. Are those working? No, they're not working. So let's go to this script. Let's see how this will be working. If not, I have to ask Ray. But let's see. This is exciting. Like, I could do this for days, but nobody will watch a 24-hour live stream. So, ooh, still not working. Counter 1, it should work. Let's make sure that initial value is set empty. Okay, they're really playing on hard here. Okay, only working with the first one. The first one is still the only one visualizing the width update from the dynamic progress bar value. Why is this happening? And please fix it. Let's see. Correctly updates all progress bars on the page based on their respective dynamic progress values. We'll thoroughly review each part of the script to identify any potential issues. Okay, let's see if this will be working. Oh, I need to go back to design. Here we go. Let's paste this in here. Let's see. This is really exciting, I have to say. Okay. Whew. It's something. Oh, let's do this to 0 or to nothing. Okay, let's go to this one. Yeah, this is nothing. Let's double check if this is working. Please. It's still not working. Okay, so why is it not working? Can we maybe use a loop? We can simplify the code using a loop to ensure all progress bars are updated correctly. Let's refactor the script to utilize a loop for handling multiple progress bars. You know, this loop is my last hope, but I have the passion. We're going to sit here if it needs to be for 2 hours. Let's see. But if I go in here, you see that, let's see, this progress bar value. If I go in here, right, I have 90. Now this progress bar, if I go to styles, let's go to styles, we see width is 0. If I would now to just update that width to 90, we would have it work. But if I go to this one, nested child, width, I see that this is with 90. We have, we set the style of width 90, but then if I go to this one, it's giving up on me. Let's inspect this. I'm not setting width 90. That's the difference. Let's copy this and let's show this to ChatGPT. Copy element, let's make this bigger. So this is interesting. The first one looks like this. And the second one looks like this. You know, you always need to communicate with the robots. They are your friends. Let's go to the one that's not working. Not here. Here you go. Ooh. Here. And let's copy this. Now maybe this can help it. Got it. You see, this is already starting good. Like, got it. That means I know what I was doing wrong the whole time. I'm so sorry. It seems like the issue lies in how we're querying for the progress bar elements with each progress bar container, since the second container doesn't have any initial width style set in line. It won't be visible unless its width is updated dynamically. Makes sense. Now, I wish I would already have early access to Devin here, which could just do those things for me. But also, this is where the fun is laying in you know, puzzling those things together. I like it. Let's see. We got it working. It's like my birthday and Christmas together today. Great. So now if I update this to 60, you know, reactivity is missing, but oops, what's going on? Oh, I shouldn't be updating the width. I should be updating this one. That is my mistake. Let's do this again. It is working. It's a miracle. Let's go to this one and let's update the width to 50. Okay. Okay. And let's update this width to 70. It's working. It's working. It's fully reactive and it's working perfect. Now the last part that we have to do is get in here, put that in here. See if the double code is interfering, because I like to use double code. That's how Reloom does it too with her FinSuite attributes tabs in the radio buttons. Works great for me. Look at that. Here you go. Now it's just a little bit glitchy here, I assume, because I have too many tabs open, and ChatGPT, and Chrome in the background. You know, it looks good. It looks very reactive and precise to me. Wonderful. So now, let's go back, and let me just walk you through what we did here, because so we have those components here, and we can dynamically set the Wized attribute. This has a Wized attribute of container 1. You know, Wized is already hard-coded, as you can see here. Wized is hard-coded, but that attribute is dynamic. The cool thing about now using components and DevLink here allows us to just dynamically update that attribute from counter 1 to counter 2. So we have a reusable way of components that will make them fully natively work with Wized. And now if I'm going to publish this here and go back to Wized, you see that in Wized, if I go to X-ray mode and reload Wized is giving up on me. Now if I reload this, you will see that I have container 1, container 2. And now I can go to container 2 and do set HTML attribute of progress bar and do return 35, and I will get 35 set in here. So I have two different ways. So in Wized, I could interact with them for two different data sets using the same component and the same HTML structure, using DevLink in Webflow and components without having to interfere them. And I don't have to make all kinds of different animations, jQuery in Wized to make this animation super smooth and work as beautiful as this, because I use DevLink in Webflow and components to accomplish that. So then in here, we have the bar with the Wized attribute that will be set dynamically using the shell in here because it's a component. And then we have the progress bar attribute here, which is starting as empty because we want to start with an empty value and then use in Wized the set HTML attribute to set that. Now my question is, will this work with 92 if I'm not going to put this in quotes? And the answer is yes. So let's put this out of quotes. Perfect. And as you can see, we just had this wonderful fade and animation here. Now this is working like that. Then inside of here, we have now set with the bar with a visibility of 0 with the attribute of progress bar width. And then we have the holder holding the text, and we have the text starting with 0% as an initial text with the progress bar attribute of progress value. And then in here, we have the HTML JavaScript embed to basically set up the whole logic to do this. It is querying and taking basically like the value, all the data from the attribute with the progress bar. For example, we have now 50%, it will take 50, and then it will adjust the bar width, first of all defining that as a variable. So bar width, the bar with the bar width, so the bar will be set as progress bar, and then the text will be set as a variable text because we can only update variables. So we're going to take that variable, we're going to update that, we're going to take the progress value, which we're defining here, adding percentages on there, and then setting the text, setting the width in here for this progress bar variable. So we take that element, turn it into a variable, we have full reactiveness in between of those, and we take the value from the progress bar, and we're taking the value from the progress bar, adding a percentage symbol next to it, and then we're going to use progress bar, which is the element with the attribute of bar width, .style.width, and updating the width dynamically based on what we have set in here. We're going to do the same thing. We're taking what we have set in here, let's say 50%, adding a progress symbol, and then setting text using .text content. This is how we're going to set text. We're going to set up the mutation observer to look on if on the progress bar elements, if there are any updates, and if there are updates, dynamically and fully reactively update those on the front end. So if Wized, for example, data gets updated in real time, let's say I'll change this to, and let's be quick, 55, you will see that this will be updating to 55 immediately. So this is what the mutation observer is helping us do. Perfect. And then, we have more of the mutation observer. That's quite a complicated thing. I'm not fully understanding, but we managed to get it work thanks to ChatGPT. So this is how you're going to use reusable components. And the cool thing is, in here, I can, for example, add another of those components. I just have to set the dynamic attribute of counter 3, for example. I'm going to publish this in my Wized project, in my Webflow project, and now I can access this fully dynamically and natively within Wized. I'm going to reload the page. We see we have a new element. I can click on here. I'm just going to go to set HTML attribute. I'm going to target progress bar. I'm going to write return 75. And as you can see, I have another progress bar in here. And this is how I can add interactive elements in Wized and reuse them across of my client projects, my own projects, without having to add a whole bunch of actions and to do all the code in Wized. Of course, I have a little bit more work initially, but imagine what happens if you build your own library for those components for your own projects, or you can monetize it or whatever. Do it for other people and give them like pre-built components using the features that Wized and Webflow give you in a simple and easy to use manner, and save a lot of time building web applications and have it built that way that it works fully reactive and fully perfect and wonderful, fully animated just like that across your web applications. And after I learned how to do this, while understanding the principles of React, the way my web applications are working, and the speed at which I can build them now from months to days drastically changed, because I don't have to rebuild every little thing. And organization within my Wized project gets way easier, because instead of managing 25 actions to do those, I just have 3, and they are all the same, just set HTML attribute. So sometimes investing a little bit of more time into building a good foundation that is reusable, like the same principle you would do in Next.js or React, is a cool way of scaling and smoothing out your whole process in building web applications in Wized. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all your wonderful feedback, all your wonderful comments. I wanted to show you how to do this thing, because I don't want to keep this a secret from you, how I build my web applications in Wized. And thank you so much for all your time. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. And yeah, also thank you so much to the wonderful Wized team for always answering my questions and really supporting these wonderful videos that I can do to help the community. Thank you for everything. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.